Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone, and welcome back to Dynasty Life. Kendall Valenzuela here with you, and we've got an extra special edition of Dynasty Life here today. Because as you can see, I'm in shoulder pads, which means that, yeah, there's something cool coming up. Jake Trowbridge here with us again, and of course, we've got the one and only Peter Overzet back with us, and we're all dressed up because, guys, today it's the PPR's court debating the hottest dynasty topics. Jake, how are you feeling today before we get into the courtroom? How's it going?
I'm feeling very judicious today. Extra so. And I think that when this is all said and done, people are going to have opinions. I don't know if they'll be good or bad, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have opinions.
And we've got Pete Overzet here. Pete, is it still Pete for this show? How are we doing today?
Yeah. You can call me whatever you want. Pete works. Yeah, Mr. Overzet, Petey, Pistol Pete, whatever you got, Miss Shoulder Pads, I'm here for it.
Perfect. As you can see, we're going to have a ton of fun today. So we've got, again, it's the PPR's court. We're debating the hottest dynasty takes. So let's get into our opening arguments, guys, presented by DraftKings. All right, it's the opening arguments. I have my gavel right here. It may or may not be a wooden spoon. It doesn't matter because I get to make the decision on these cases. So you have to be nice to the gavel and you have to respect the shoulder pad. So here's what we're going to do. It's the opening arguments presented by DraftKings. And we've got our first case. And the first case is going to be defended by Jake. So you get the floor first. Here it is. You should never trade for young stud running backs. The floor is yours.
Let me say, we are in Dynasty, folks. Do you know what that means? Look it up if you don't already know. I want to say something, all right? They say that age is just a number. That's what they say. Well, here's a number for you. 11.7. You know what that is? That's the average fantasy points per season scored by 30-year-old running backs over the last 5 years. Here's another number for you. 12.0. You know what that is? That's the number scored by 26-year-old running backs over the last 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, are we going to quibble over 0.3 fantasy points per game? Is that what we're doing here? This excludes running backs that are just kind of there, that don't have at least 50 carries, by the way, so don't try to use that against me, Pistol Pete. This mark of 12 and 11.7, that's the two best amongst all age groups going back over the last 5 years. We've got some young guys who can't even sniff that 30-year-old mark, all right? I want to have a little fun here real quick. I want to go back to 2020 for just a second. Here are some names of some hot young running backs that were in the top 15 at ADP at the time. Dalvin Cook, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, Chris Carson. By the next year, only 2 of these people were still in the top 15 at their ADP. By the year after that, just 1. The year after that, nobody was in the top 20 at their own ADP. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask again, is 0.3 fantasy points per game really worth it? Or maybe should we start looking at the running back position through a redraft plus type of lens and just go get the old guys, spend a lot less to get basically the same? Isn't that what we should be doing, ladies and gentlemen? Or draft them at the start. But don't waste your time trading for these young bucks.
Okay. I hear it, Jake. I love it. Pete, now the floor is yours.
God, I never thought it would come because this might be the dumbest premise for a question that I've ever heard. First of all, never trade for a young running back. We're not even going to talk about the cost. You're telling me if someone offers me Devon Achane for a bag of peanuts, I'm not supposed to trade for him because I'll never trade for a young stud running back? This is absurd. And let me remind you, Your Honor, do you remember David Johnson? Do you remember Le'Veon Bell? Hell, do you remember Todd Gurley? We can talk about these running backs who held their value for year after year and delivered first-round production. But apparently I'm not supposed to ever trade for him. Don't you dare trade for Jahmyr Gibbs before he becomes one of the best assets in fantasy football. Don't trade for Bijan Robinson. And by God, don't trade for Ashton Dempsey. Who knows? He might be the 101 next year. This is absurd. Trade for them because their value gets higher. The number one thing that people want to pay for in Dynasty is running back touches, and these young studs provide them in spades. And I got a couple aces of them up my sleeves if you dare to disagree.
Strong arguments on both sides. Shout out to Pete, though, for saying your honor. That's, the gavel and the shoulder pads. That's what we're working with here today. So I think I've got a ruling, and I'm ready to rule in favor. Yes, I'm ready to rule in favor of the plaintiff's argument. Pete Overzet, I think you've won this one. First of all,
hallelujah.
There you go. I agree with Pete on this one. You should that he went against it. Because Jake, you don't want people to be trading for young stud running backs. You just don't think it's worth it because of the points that you brought up, like literal points, PPR points. Not a big difference.
If I may address Pete as a small rebuttal here, I would just like to point out that people don't want running backs in Dynasty. The people, they want the wide receivers. If you're in Superflex, they want the quarterbacks, maybe even the tight ends. But I say to you, I would rather pay 10 times over for those positional groups than any of these running backs.
Speak for yourself. I don't care about your kinky little wide receiver preferences. Over here in God's country, we like running backs, sir.
Pete, for the people listening, since you did win that argument, is that, are you willing to give up a lot for for an Ashton Genty this season? We had a ton of young running backs who, Dwayne, McFarland, everyone said this is a really deep group of running backs coming into this class. What are you willing to give up for some of those guys coming in now?
Well, it sounds like it can just give up all these little wide receivers that apparently everyone likes. Yeah, here, take a little Jaden Reed. You want a Lad McConkey while you're at it? Sure, just take them. I don't care. Give me the running backs. I'll give you your little wide receivers.
All right, there we go. So, Jake, you kind of have to know, I'm not trying to give legal advice, but maybe step it up here because we've got Pete that won that one. But those were the opening arguments. We've set the table for what's to come. That was presented by DraftKings. Playoff basketball is here, and there is still plenty of game left to be played. Don't miss a second of the hoops action with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbooks. From every game day until the trophy is lifted, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with the same game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. Here's something special for first timers. Now DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FANTASYLIFE. The crown is yours. All right, order in the court with the spoon and the shoulder pads. We've got our second case here to come, and the case is Drake Maye should be ranked above Patrick Mahomes in Dynasty. Jake, you are the defendant against this argument, so you get the floor first. What do you think here?
First of all, I just want to say, if you're not familiar with this legal strategy of lulling your opponent into a sense of security, you are about masterclass. All right, that first one was just a gimme. This one, however, has got some teeth to it. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know who Patrick Mahomes is. We know he's the QB 13 and QB 14 in points per game over the last 2 seasons. We know that. You know what we don't know? Who's Patrick Mahomes without his elite tight end? Who is he? Who is he for fantasy purposes? We do not know. Could it go up without Travis Kelce? Presumably, but unlikely. Now, Drake Maye, on the other hand, here's something I want to throw out to you. I just want to say some names, in fact. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Cam Newton, Michael Vick, Steve Young, Drake Maye. You know what they all have in common? They all are some of the few quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era to average at least 220 passing yards and 35 rushing yards per game. Not too shabby. Not too shabby for old Drakester in his 10 official full starts last season. By the way, he did that throwing to Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry as 2 of his top 3 guys. He did that throwing to the historically bad Jalen Polk. You don't believe me? Jalen Poku is supposed to be, the wide receiver one for the Patriots as of last offseason. Here's what he did. Out of more than 1,100 qualified wide receivers going back 5 years, he put up bottom 7 numbers in catch percentage, receptions per game, yards per target, receiving success rate. Not so great. But in comes Stephon Diggs. And I know we're scared. He's hurt us before. He hurt himself last year. But if Stephon Diggs is even half the man that he was a year ago, 2 ago, that's the best weapon Drake Maye has had in his NFL life. Now he's also got Travion Henderson, pass blocking dynamo, big play piece of dynamite waiting to go off every single game, maybe with the screen pass. Maybe one that benefits old Drakester here. Maye's got the improved coaching staff, the improved weapons. He's got a much higher rushing floor than Patrick Mahomes does, and he's 7 years younger than old Patty Pants. So I say to you, is it so nuts that we value the young ascending quarterback as opposed to the middle-aged, kind of maybe stagnant, maybe just sitting knee-deep in a pond, to use an expression that I know old Pistol Pete was burning to use? I think Drake Maye is the guy that I want over Patrick Mahomes for the long term.
Order. I hear people yelling in the background. We have to get it together here, folks, because we've got Pete coming up. Pete, the plaintiff's argument, Drake Maye should be ranked above Patrick Mahomes in Dynasty. What say you?
I think this is a classic case of dynasty gamers being way too fancy. They're always trying to skate to where the puck's going to be. But guess what? New England doesn't like passing that puck. That's what we've seen. This was a team, they didn't even want to start Drake Maye last year. They were content playing Jacoby Brissett after drafting this guy 3rd overall. Everyone pretends like he showed such promise. What kind of promise is 15 touchdowns to 10 interceptions? I'm not no mathematician, but that ain't no great ratio. And you want to talk about the weapons. I'm sorry. Are they that much improved? Is a 38-year-old Stephon Diggs with half a kneecap and some guy named Kyle Williams worth a damn? I sure don't think so. This is business as usual. This is a team that wants to run the ball. Are you familiar with Mike Vrabel's game? This is a guy who hid Ryan Tannehill in his cupboard for half a decade. You think he's going to unleash Drake Maye? This is absurd. We know who Patrick Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes can make the throws. And guess what? He finally has his cupboard stocked with weapons. Arashi Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce in the prime of his career. I don't see nothing to like. Take the known entity. Stop buying these meme coin stocks and hoping they go to the moon. Invest in a T-bond and save for your retirement.
Pete, I need to question, I've got a couple questions for you before I can make my ruling. Are you nervous at all about people saying that, the dynasty, since they lost the Super Bowl, has ended? You've got, a little bit of legal stuff going on with one of their wide receivers. Isaiah Pacheco isn't someone that people are necessarily scared of. Does that worry you at all?
Well, you mentioned the Dynasty. Last I checked my Dynasty League scoring settings, they don't reward for Super Bowls in the weekly scoring, Kendall. I basically only care about the fantasy points that are scored. I didn't know that I had to be concerned about things like legacy. So no, I'm not worried about your arbitrary cutoff for a Dynasty. What was your other question, ma'am?
I don't, honestly, Pistol Pete, I don't remember what my other question was, but you answered exactly what I needed you to. And then Jake, the other question for you that I've seen kind of going around is that, do you think this then is the year that you want to buy into Drake Maye before he gets even more expensive from what you've said, that he's going to have this huge 2025 season? Should people be buying now instead of later?
I'm telling you, if you wait, if you decide to play it safe because this is an unknown guy and you say week 5, that's going to be my time to buy into Drake Maye, it's already too late. The price went up. To quote Mr. Kevin Costner, one of our, I think we can all agree, one of our greatest Americans, price today, it's not going to be the price of yesterday. And the price tomorrow is certainly not going to be the price of last year. So get your Drake Maye while you still can.
Okay. I think I'm ready. I have my ruling. I've got my gavel. I've got that noise in the back. Yeah.
Can I interrupt
go ahead.
you? If
Go
you're
ahead.
going to rule in my favor, I won't interrupt you. If you are about to rule against me, then I am going to interrupt you. Can you tell me which of these I need to do?
I'm going to rule against you.
Okay, then I need to interrupt. Why trade for Drake Maye when you can just trade for Bo Nix? Bo Nix is cheaper. Bo Nix is cheaper, Your Honor. And guess what? He actually showed a fantasy ceiling last year, 30-point games. You can do the similar no weapons argument with Bo Nix that you can for Drake Maye. And he actually plays in an offense with some pluck to it. Sean Payton's going to get that thing humming. Bo Nix is actually good. Hell, why deal with Drake Maye when you got Bo Nix right there for cheap?
Listen, I understand, and thank you for interrupting the argument here. So I am ruling with
Hang
Jake
on,
in
real
this
quick,
one.
before you give your ruling, I might interrupt you if you're going to rule against me, but I won't interrupt you if you're going to rule in my favor. Can you tell me right now, are you going to rule in my favor? I won't interrupt.
No, I'm gonna rule against you.
Darn. Trade for Jordan Love. All right, I'm sorry. I'll sit down, bailiff. Relax, Mr. Bailiff.
Order.
I do want to say, Your
in
Honor, I
contempt.
actually agree with him on that point, though. You should also try
Which
to trade
one?
for Bo
Oh.
Nix. So I think you should. There's not an either or situation here, though. Pistol. We can trade for both. We can have both.
Ruling in my favor.
We can have Bo Nix and we can have Drake Maye, and you should take both of them over Patrick Mahomes.
He
Ooh.
interrupted you to say you were about to make the wrong ruling too.
You're going to both
No.
be held in contempt. You're going to have to pay to get out of jail. Don't do this to me right now. It's too early in the show. I'm still ruling with Jake, even though he just told me to maybe rule against him. I'm sorry. I have to. I like Drake Maye. Average 233 passing yards, 36 rushing yards, and 10 complete starts last season. And Jake already said the list of guys that helps him get to with QBs to clear 220 passing and 355 rushing yards per game in a single season in the Super Bowl era. I'm sorry, Pistol Pete. It was a good argument, but Jake, let me just ask you this before we close this one. So you're saying, people listening, dynasty managers, trade for Bo Nix, trade for Drake Maye, trade for Jordan Love, all three of those guys ahead of Patrick Mahomes.
Certainly Drake Maye, certainly Bo Nix, maybe Jordan Love. Jordan Love over Patrick Mahomes. And definitely at the discount that you can get all of them for, I'm taking it every time.
Pete, let me ask you this, because and now we're in the court of law or whatever you want to say. Bo Nix is expensive this year. True or false? He's QB8 in some of the rankings over there at Fantasy Life. Is that too rich for you? For a guy like you, are you gonna bid on him, Bo Nix at QB8?
I'm in on it because you're at least paying for production. You're paying for production. Bo Nix showed a real fantasy ceiling last year in a way a lot of these other quarterbacks haven't. They go out, they draft Pat Bryant. He's an exciting young player there. They get Evan Ingram in free agency. I think this offense is going to cook. I like Bo Nix. He has a very fantasy-friendly game.
Okay, that one ruled in favor of Jake, the defendant here. Before we continue on, because we've got a lot more cases to get to, we are going to hear from our friends over at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
It's a lot of Bud Lights. You have to give me one of those.
Continuing on here, Pete, I better not see any Bud Lights in this courtroom. I know that's, it better not be under the chair. It better not be on the side. We got to keep order in this court.
I debate better when I have a few of them Bud Light pops running through me. I'm just saying.
Or continuing on here with the PPR's court, we're pretty much tied here with Pistol Pete, who now, that's your name, Pistol Pete now, and the Jake Trowbridge coming in here. So we've got the Jake Trowbridge. He's got,
I call him going to be eating Crowbridge after all these arguments go south for him. Jake Crowbridge, get a nice
Your
plate
Honor,
of crow.
can we just rule ahead to
Order.
the next one based on that bad pun? Is that allowed? Can we just jump ahead to the end of that?
Listen, I'm here for the people, really. The next case coming in here, if you want to win now, you should be trading for Christian McCaffrey, running back out of the San Francisco 49ers. Jake, again, you are defending this argument, so you get the floor first.
I say the letters CMC. You know what springs to mind for everybody out there? fantasy championships. I know last year, it was disappointing. Injuries are never fun for anybody, especially the players themselves. But we are just a couple years of being removed from Christian Jackson McCaffrey being the NFL's rushing leader. He also put up 21 total touchdowns just a couple of years ago. Let's not forget about that. That's pretty good. Yes, it is. I would say so. Now the 49ers are without Deebo Samuel. They are maybe without Brandon Ayuk. We don't really know what's happening with that guy. They lose Jordan Mason. They bring in Jordan James. All this to say one thing remains clear. The 49ers will have to feature Christian Jackson McCaffrey a whole lot this season. He's under contract for 2 years. And those 2 years are all you need him for when you are in win now mode in Dynasty. I want to just point out, I've done some digging here, folks. I have some exhibits to bring with me. I did some digging to see what the average folks are paying to get Christian McCaffrey onto their Dynasty teams these days. Exhibit A, Christian McCaffrey for this year's rookie 110 pick. Exhibit B, Christian McCaffrey for Dontavian Wicks and 2 second-round picks. That's 2 second-round picks and a Wicks for Christian McCaffrey. Exhibit C, Christian McCaffrey and the 209 for the 112, the 204, and Hunter Henry. Folks, what are we doing? What are we doing to ourselves? What are we doing to our league mates with these types of trades? I know it's scary to get back on an old running back, and I know that old Pistol Pete hates the old running backs. He's already made that abundantly clear to you and I, but Your Honor, please, I am asking you, consider the fantasy glory that we know CMC can still bring to our Dynasty teams. I rest my case.
Thank you, Jake. A very, very solid argument here. Pete, you are now up.
Yeah, Jake, your argument like these offers for Christian McCaffrey are a day late and $1 short, okay? Here's the thing about Christian McCaffrey, and I don't know how much time you guys have for me to read off what is essentially a CVS receipts worth of injury history. Let's first go back to 2020, and I'll try to keep this fast. He had a thigh injury, a high ankle, shoulder, missed 13 total games that year. 2021, season-ending IR because of an ankle injury. 2023, oblique and calf issues. And let's not forget the coup d'etat of last year. First of all, the team tells us he's going to be ready for the start of the season. Next thing you know, he's in Germany getting special syringes placed in him just so he can play football. Doesn't even coming back until midway through the season. And then he has a PCL injury in week 13 and doesn't finish the year. This guy couldn't even string together multiple games, and I'm supposed to trade for him in Dynasty? What are you even buying? This is just shadows and chasing things that are not actually there anymore. Go invest in anything other than a running back who can barely stand up. This is absurd. Christian McCaffrey was a great story when it happened, but it's Jover.
Thank you, Pistol Pete, for bringing back the word Jover, too. That's a throwback to Sirius XM like 3 years ago. So I do appreciate that. I think I have a ruling. Pete, Pistol Pete, are you gonna, yeah, knock, knock. Are you gonna interrupt this at all? Or are we good here? Do you need?
No, I'm confident you're gonna rule in my favor, so I don't need to interrupt nothing.
Okay, you are correct in this case here, Pistol Pete. I do rule in your favor because, listen, if I am able to fleece dynasty managers like Jake's leagues, then maybe I'll get it done. But for me, Christian McCaffrey, for what you'll usually have to give up, might not be worth it. You don't want to go with the injury route. I think he's a safer pick, like Pete said, maybe in redraft and best ball where you can get around some of that. But if you're giving up a ton of draft capital, I'm sorry, Jake, ton of draft capital for Christian McCaffrey, who, was in Germany and had, Achilles tendonitis last year. It's tough. It's tough for me to rule in that favor.
Where are you getting these trades that you're at? I mean, did you scroll through 4,000 trades to find 2 that sounded palatable for him? I mean, good God, those things were unrealistic.
You'll have to forgive me. I've been trying to peer behind Pete to see if I can find a hammer and a bunch of 2x4s because this man loves to rebuild, and people in dynasty leagues will love that. So, kudos, Pete. I'm not bitter at all.
2-1. Check that scoreboard, and it's technically 3-0 because you conceded the second one too. So, I'm rolling.
We'll have our stenographer read that back. I don't think that's how that went.
Continuing on, gentlemen. So it is Pete winning 2 cases so far. Jake, you have 1, and you did not give that one up. Don't listen to Pistol Pete. He's just trying to get a rise out of you so that you, abandon all courtroom etiquette. But we're here. Before we continue on, though, going to go back to our friends over at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
It's a lot of Bud Lights. You have to give me one of those.
All right, continuing on in the PPR's People's Court here, we've got Pistol Pete, we've got Jake Trowbridge here, and we are going to get into a spicy one for case number 4. So we are going to say sending out multiple trade offers to each of your league mates every day is actually totally and completely fine. Jake, I believe you're the defendant on this one, but if I'm wrong on that, switch me over. But if you are, you can start.
That is correct. And I would just like to I need to loosen my tie for this.
Why Jake's loosening his tie? Can I ask the judge something why Jake's loosening his tie? You told me not to be drinking Bud Lights in this court of law, and yet you keep serving me up these delicious reminders of how good Bud Light tastes. I'm just telling you, I'm only a man, and you keep tempting me like that. I will crack a cold one in your presence.
Duly noted. Thank you. Jake.
I would like to crack the cold one of this plea, if I could. And I would like to serve that up to both of you. It may not be as tasty as a Bud Light, but I do think that it's worth hearing. A trade offer is like a hug. It's like a hug or a love letter from a friend. All right. Now, I don't know how the kids these days handle this. I know not a lot of folks write letters anymore. So let's just say it's a heartfelt text to a friend, a league mate, a colleague, if you will. I don't look at a text from a friend and say, how dare you send me that? I don't look at a second text that day and say, how dare you send me that? I love to get them. I love to get trade offers as much, or maybe just a little bit less, as I love to send trade offers. And you know what? You don't have to even look at the trade offer. You don't have to accept the trade offer, but just let me be me. I'm putting in all the legwork, right? I'm coming up with this wonderful thing that the both of us could potentially share into. Now you want to cap me and say, no. In fact, in terms of heartfeltness, we're going to put that at like 2 to 3 days a week at max. That's egregious. That's just egregious. Let me phrase it this way. Let's put it into a different perspective. Pete, I know you like sandwiches. Everybody loves sandwiches. Let's say that I show up on your doorstep and I leave you a sandwich. And I ring your buzzer and I leave and you open your door and there's a sandwich. Now, what you do with the sandwich, that's up to you. You can eat it, you can throw it out, but you will not take away my right to craft that sandwich, to spend all morning thinking of what toppings you might like, what type of bread you might want it on, and then showing up with a gift basket of sandwich at your feet. All right? Now, you might tell me, hey, I don't like sandwiches, mister, or in fact, I'm gluten intolerant, so I take that as an offense, and then I will stop bringing the sandwiches. But until you do so, be prepared to be peppered with salami, with ham, with turkey, maybe a nice club, maybe toasted, maybe not. But it's who I am. So I'm going to keep sending those trade offers as often as I can.
Pete, the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, this guy walks right into my hand. I mean, this is one of the dumbest analogies I have ever heard. Because if you're showing up on my property day after day, I don't care what you're bringing. I'm calling the cops. And short of calling the cops, I'm getting my shotgun and I'm telling you to get off my lawn, Jake. And here's the thing about your little analogy. It's not that I don't like sandwiches. I love sandwiches. The problem is you're bringing me crappy sandwiches. It's 10-day-old baloney. It's someone dropping their pants and putting a little poop in between some sourdough bread and calling it a sandwich, okay? These offers are nuisances. People are always trying to pull one over on you in Dynasty. A fair trade is a fair trade. And guess what? Those don't come up every day, okay? Those are once in a blue moon opportunities. When the stars align, then good day to you. We'll shake hands and swap players. But I don't need you in my life harassing me, pestering me day after day. Go out there and do something else with your life. Touch some grass. Take care of your cows. Give your wife a kiss on the cheek and tell your kids you love them. But stop coming to my doorstep with your sandwiches.
Okay.
I just want to point out, if I may, Your Honor, I'm so sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Check your inbox because I just sent you a trade offer while you were saying that.
Pete, we have to the language. The language, Pete. I know. We can't say shit.
He tried to trade me Dontavian Wicks for Christian McCaffrey because it happened once in another league.
Classic mischaracterization, Your Honor. I clearly noted that there were 2 second-round rookie picks involved in that trade. This is just another example of old Pistol here trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes.
And Jake, that's why I'm here to say I've got my ruling, and it is in your favor, Jake. I am ready to say it is because Pete, listen, people enjoy sandwiches, and even if you don't like it, it's the thought that counts. At least he's trying. You want someone that tries every day. Would you rather, Pete, have a league mate that does nothing year round and then just walks into the draft? You haven't seen him in a year? Or do you want someone that might be a little bit annoying, that might give you a few too many sandwiches, but once in a while, maybe one of those trades is good?
I'm so this sandwich analogy, I can't believe I lost to this. There are so many other better ways to say trade to Dynasty is good, and you opened up the door for a sandwich and tried to sell it to me like it's gosh darn Subway footlong.
Hey, Subway's okay, but that's all I'm going to say, Jake.
No free ads. Only Bud Light.
Stop. I'm just, well, that's true. Only Bud Light. But I'm just saying, Jake, I agree with you. I do agree with you on this ruling that, you might, but you never know if you're not going to try, right, Jake? That's the one thing with Dynasty trade offers. You might think it's stupid, but someone else might think it's good.
It's just called being free and open with your heart, Your Honor. And that's what I try to do every single day. And we've got some Scrooges that'll try to take that away from you and say, I don't want your heart in between a couple of nice toasty pieces of Italian bread. And that's fine. That's fine.
What you do in your own free time is between you and the Lord. Sorry.
Amen. We've got a tie, gentlemen, and we can't leave this courtroom in a tie. So don't worry. I'm the judge, and I know that all things were coming to us. No matter what, we've got a tiebreaker here. So you have to get your best arguments out for this one. This is the final case of the PPR's People's Court. We're going to go into which format is the best. And Jake, I think I know which one I'm assigning you, but the argument here is that Dynasty is the best fantasy football format. Jake, the floor is yours.
Even if you take away all those glorious trade sandwiches, let's put them to the side. All right, put them in the fridge, save it for later because you're going to want to come back to it. But even if we put that aside, Dynasty is a reward for patience and dedication. That's what we love. And I know the youth with their TikToks and their Instagrams and their VHS cassettes and their Walkmans and their Tamagotchis, they can't understand. But if you stick with something for a good long time and you get really good at it, the reward should be even greater. And you know what's really great? Having an amazing Dynasty team year after year after year, and watching your other league mates try their hardest to catch up to you. But as the one with all the sandwiches, that they have to come to you to get those pieces. They can't just simply re-roll the dice next year and try again and leave it up to chance. So Dynasty it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I just hit my 26 miles or whatever the number is for a marathon every year, and I relish it.
Thank you, Jake. Pete, I'm assuming you're going to be arguing in favor of best ball, but I'll give you the floor to any other fantasy format that you think is better than Dynasty.
Yeah, little did you guys know when you invited old Pistol Pete onto a Dynasty show that it was all just a Trojan horse to spread the good word of best ball. I mean, Dynasty's fine. Dynasty's fine in the way a game of Monopoly is fine. You play it once a year with your grandma and it's intricate and takes way too long, but you're not trying to play 19 games of Monopoly. Come on, no, you want to play best ball. You want to play where there's millions of prizes. What are you winning when you win Dynasty? You're winning $450 and a couple of sandwiches in your inbox every morning that Mr. I'm under a bridge and I'm a troll calls a nice trade offer. Get out of here. Best ball's where the goods are at. There's no strings attached. It's like a fling. It's like a fling. You get to have the fun and then you move on. Best ball's a beautiful game. You can get all kinds of reps in. You don't have to deal with all of these ridiculous personalities in your league sending you awful offers. Best ball's the future, and I stand by it.
Jake, any rebuttal before we make a final decision here on best ball?
Well, Your Honor, I would just like to say that was clearly slander, what just happened there. I don't live under a bridge. I've never lived under a bridge. I don't think anybody has any photographic proof that I ever lived under a roof. Sir, unless you brought some exhibits with you to prove this point, I would like you to just move on and concede, all right? Did my grandparents live under a bridge? Maybe, but that's not something that we have time to get into today, sir.
Okay. Pete, are you good? You're not going to interrupt, right? Because I don't want to hold you in contempt.
Tell me, are you going to rule in my favor? Because I won't interrupt you. But if you're not, I got some things to say.
Pete, I will say I am ruling in your favor. That's where we're at. I'm sorry. I know this is a Dynasty show, and Jake, this is your courtroom. But Pete, I do have to agree with you on best ball being the better of the two. Any closing arguments there?
Did I mention those shoulder pads look great on you, Your Honor?
Pete, you win. You win the PPR's People's Court here for the first time on the show, for the first time people meeting Pistol Pete. Any closing words, any thoughts that you might have? Yes, a tip of the cap to you.
No, I mean, I appreciate y'all having me here. I mean, it is a tough look for the best ball bro to come on the Dynasty show and win and say it's a better format. But hey, I'm just here to spread the good word. And I like talking about Dynasty. I like talking about those players. And all I'd say here to young Mr. Eaton Crow under a bridge, Jake Troll over here is you best come prepared next time. Because if you come at the king, you best not miss, my boy.
Jake, closing thoughts?
We're never having Pete on again.
Okay.
Ever,
okay.
Right? We're never having Pete on this show.
I don't think we're allowed because of the vulgar language. I'm sorry to the People's Court and to the children. Pete, this is a children's show. I mean, the kids are into Dynasty now. You heard Tamagotchis and
we're
whatever else.
Beer commercials at children?
Leave that out of it, Pete. It's for the parents.
Can you retroactively change one of his back now? That's been multiple comments like that.
Maybe.
I think we should get a 2 to 3 switch.
Make objection. This need a kids show. We're not advertising Capri Sun.
I think, Pete, you got to stop before I'll throw one of them back to Jake and he'll walk out of here. The PPR, whatever, the People's Court.
Is that a spatula,
hero.
by the way? Spatula?
You don't like it?
You don't have a real gavel? Wow.
Do you, sir?
Oh, I don't need one. I just compel the judge to use it with my words.
I don't think that's a real cowboy hat, sir. By the way, if we're going to get into what's real and what's not, I have my questions about that cowboy hat.
It's tilted, Pete.
I will not speak to the quality of my hat. All I will say is they're a lot cheaper if you have them imported from China, tariffs withstanding.
All right. Well, that was a lot, and we unfortunately had to kick Pistol Pete off the show just because. I mean, Jake, listen, you brought the respect to the courtroom. You respected, me as the judge, so I appreciate that. So Pistol Pete, it was the bad word sandwiches, and it was the beer that he was drinking. We had to kick him off. It just had to happen.
I was waiting for it to happen 30 minutes earlier, but we got what we needed, I think, out of these arguments, and hopefully help some people at least understand both sides, whether or not they agreed with your very, very good rulings, I might say.
Exactly. So let's do a little bit of a recap, because I know that we were very much in character throughout that whole show, so we weren't able to really dive into it. But the one I definitely want to start with was that second case overall. So Drake Maye should be ranked above Patrick Mahomes in Dynasty, and I believe I ruled in your favor in that one. But I think this is an interesting conversation, because we are at this point of, a couple of these younger quarterbacks' careers where you and I talked about it, and we said, what you want to be a little bit early rather than having to pay a premium price for someone like Drake Maye, who could have a really big boom season for 2025. So that's where I think this conversation is interesting, because when you hear the names, you just think, well, it's obviously Patrick Mahomes should be ranked ahead of him. But if you're really looking towards the future and you do think Drake Maye is going to take that step forward, it feels like an interesting argument is there to be made for Drake Maye being, one of these boom quarterbacks in 2025 that you don't want to miss out on before it happens.
Yeah, and if we're stepping away from the hot take, aspect of that, and although I would do it in a heartbeat, you don't have to do that in Dynasty. You do not have to trade Drake Maye straight up for Patrick Mahomes, nor would I advise you to actually do that, because of course you'd be able to get so much more. But I think along with what you're talking about with Drake Maye just being a young ascending guy that you don't have to pay over the moon for, there's also the name brand recognition of Patrick Mahomes, whether it's a 1QB Dynasty League or Superflex Dynasty, that carries so much weight, even though, as I kind of pointed out earlier, he's not been a top 12 fantasy quarterback in points per game the last 2 seasons. Not to say that he could never get back up there again, but it's a lot easier when you look at somebody with one of those kind of absurdly high rushing floors. Not saying that Drake Maye carries the same as like a Jalen Hurts or a Josh Allen necessarily, but he has that really safe floor combined with that ceiling. So yeah, getting in before seriously that price jumps up, 3 to 4 times what it is right now by the end of this season is definitely a way to go, I think.
Can I ask you about, there's one rookie, right, with the New England Patriots wide receiver Kyle Williams. Now, that's someone that you could maybe argue, and since we are talking in this dynasty space, I did a rookie Superflex tight end premium draft just earlier today, and he was going right at the end of the 4th round, and in a lot of them, I've seen him maybe go undrafted in those first 4 rounds. And so I'm interested, Jake, is that someone, Kyle Williams, who I know we haven't talked about in depth yet, but that seems like a sleeper that people should be paying attention to. If we do believe, which you and I agree, Drake Maye takes this next step, Mike Vrabel, they've got, a better head coach in there. It feels like we should keep an eye on him.
Yeah, absolutely. If for no other reason that it's kind of the same Jack Besh scenario over with the Raiders of who is he throwing to? I mean, I do love still Stephon Diggs for the very, very short term. I think people are kind of sleeping on him a little bit too much because of the injury. I'm willing to invest in him in redraft, certainly. But Kyle Williams, day 2, draft capital is so important when we're looking at these rookies coming in as well. And he does have that. And again, he's fighting with not too much on that depth chart right now, more than was there last year again, certainly. But I do think that Kyle Williams is an interesting guy to pick out. I personally would be willing to take him at the end of the 2nd round. I did a Superflex one-man mock draft that I posted to Fantasy Life, and I have him slotted towards the end of the 2nd.
All right, the next one I wanted to make sure we went through, because while this was, everyone knew we were just being a little bit dramatic during the show, but it was the Christian McCaffrey conversation that we had where we talked about this case being, if you want to win now, you should be trading for Christian McCaffrey. And I think that definitely, Jake, it feels like Christian McCaffrey, whether it's dynasty, whether it's redraft, we can even throw it into the best ball streets. Like, he is going to be so polarizing as a player this season in drafts. You're going to have people on one side that are just all in and they say, hey, he's now had really, I mean, he had the full season really to be rehabbing, and now he's got the full off season, so he should be good to go. The other side of the argument, Jake, is that, once we've seen it, we want to start backing away from it. So Christian McCaffrey in redraft right now is going at the end of the first round, so he's definitely been coming up right around that 1-2 turn. And so I do think this is an interesting conversation where if you have your dynasty squad and you're let's say one running back away from winning, are you really willing to take that risk and trade for Christian McCaffrey to win now?
There are some other vets that I would be maybe more interested in just because of their price points in Dynasty. So, a James Conner or somebody like that is still not going to cost as much as CMC. They're similar age, maybe even similar arguments to be made for their injury histories and what to expect forward. But CMC is somebody that I would gladly give up. Again, some of those trades that I talked about, a couple of second round picks and sorry, apologies to Dontavian Wicks, but not exactly a superstar. To give that up and get CMC because what he can be. Again, as recently as 2023, he was winning your league. It's not to say it's a guarantee at all, but the risk versus reward for CMC, don't go out and give multiple first round picks to get him, certainly. Yeah. But yeah, if you feel you're one piece away, especially at running back, I'd go do it.
It's interesting. I'm excited for it, Jake, because I don't know yet. It's early. We can still make up our mind, change our minds. I don't know where I sit with him, especially when we're talking about, going into redraft season. So it's going to be really interesting. Where are you at? Like, if I just asked you straight up, take the dynasty. I know this is Dynasty Life, but redraft, are you willing to pay the end of the first round premium pick on Christian McCaffrey right now?
I think it's a little different for me in redraft because I almost see it as more of a risk to take him. You never want your very first pick, your first round pick, to come out and bust, especially if it's something that you could maybe kind of see on the horizon. Like, that risk to me is much more substantial in redraft. If he falls, he's my second pick overall. I feel better about that. If he's the second guy added to my roster.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's the thing where you're going to see such a difference. You're going to have league mates in redraft season and dynasty where they're just going to say, I don't want any piece of him. And you're going to see him fall into the second round. And I'm going to see some where I know some of my friends, if they get that 7th, 8th overall pick, Jake, that they're just going to say, screw it. It's still CMC and he should be good to go. So that's going to be a fun one to watch in these next coming months. But we appreciate everyone, as always, hanging out with us here today. Kendall Valenzuela, Jake Trowbridge, and it was Pistol Pete Overzet, but he had to go. He just disrespected the court, and we can't have that at all. But he was amazing as well. Make sure you guys go to fantasylife.com. That's where you can find our newsletter 100% free in your inbox 7 days a week. And all of our articles are also 100% free. So make sure you go and check that out. We'll see you here again next time.